Folks, this week on the PreReal Podcast, we're joined by Joshua Smith. For those of you not familiar, Josh is the host of the GSD podcast, GSD Mode, Perfect Storm software. He's an absolute beast of a agent, coach, consultant, broker, named one of the top 30 agents in America by the Wall Street Journal. His team has transacted over 7,000 homes and $2 billion in real estate. He has built an all-in-one comprehensive CRM and mentorship program. As an owner of a real estate business, I could tell you it was an absolute pleasure to sit and chat with him. A lot of great information. Joshua Smith from GSD this week, guys.
Are you ready to bring your real estate game to the next level? My name is James Prendamano. I'm the CEO and founder of PreReal, and over the past 25 years, I've closed over $1 billion in transactional real estate. Each week, I'm meeting with outstanding investors, high-performing individuals, and visionaries operating in the real estate space. These are the people that are actually out there in the real estate game right now getting it done. This podcast aims at bringing anyone's game to the next level. This is the PreReal Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the PreReal Podcast. We've got a kindred spirit of mine on today, Joshua Smith. We are extremely excited. He is the host of the GSD podcast. He's the founder of the Real Estate Mastery Bootcamp coaching program and the Perfect Storm software. He's an absolute beast deal maker, visionary. Really excited to have you on the show with us today, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited for this, and it's an honor to be here with you.
Yeah, man. So look, let's talk to the audience quick, a little bit about background. You didn't wake up one day and just have, all of these systems and tools and this vision in place. Can you talk the audience a little bit through, how you got into real estate and what that first year was like, although you had a killer first year?
Yeah. I like real estate was never supposed to be the journey, man, for me. I grew up in the health club industry. My dad owned and operated gyms for 30 years. He retired and sold the gyms that he had owned right when I was finishing high school. And I stayed in that industry, though. And at the age of 23, I made the realization that, look, if I'm going to make good money in this business and be able to hit my financial goals, I got to get into ownership. Well, at that point, I'm a college dropout, $1,000 to my name, and the facility I wanted to go out there and create was going to cost about $800,000 at that time. So nobody was going to give me a loan. So then I was like, okay, I need to go bank some capital, man. And I'm like, dude, I love people. I love sales. I love working my ass off. This was 2005. Real estate market was just insane as ever. So I'm like, I'll just jump into real estate, go out there and sell a shit ton of homes and raise the capital that I need, at least enough for a down payment, create the facility I want to create. And I always say that very quickly, health and fitness became my passion. Real estate became my obsession. I just saw so many more opportunities, with the real estate business. But it took a few years before, I hit that discovery. But first year, one of the things that I did that really helped me. Well, number one, I had the sales and business background. When your parents are entrepreneurs and you get to see the back end and you're used to watching that work ethic and seeing how businesses were ran, and I started selling health club memberships for my dad at the age of 14, so, selling health club memberships, upselling the personal training packages. So, I knew how to go out there and sell. And I had, 9 years of sales experience before, as well as leading teams and whatnot. So when I got into real estate, I was going into real estate school. I was like, okay, look, I need to come up with a strategy because that's what I was lacking. And it became very obvious in real estate school, they don't teach you shit. Right. Yep. So then I just started interviewing, like going out there and interviewing top producers in the market and seeing if they'd let me take them out to lunch and pick their brains. And so then that way, day one, that I started my real estate license, where most people are like, okay, got my license. Now let me figure out the fuck to do. Like I knew exactly what to go out there and execute on. I came up with my strategy. I knew what to do. There's still a lot to figure out, but from like when it comes to business, dude, it's like, how am I going to go out there and get business? So that was my focus. And, got my first client in 4 days, sold 48 deals my first year. That led me to hitting a capacity. You and I were talking about this off air, but technology is vastly different today. Like back then it was like, dude, there was no smartphones, there was no scanners, there was none of this stuff. So it took longer to do each unit. But, that took me to a capacity, hired my first assistant. After that year, that then, took me to 103 deals. And that led me to starting my team, if you will, and then just kept progressing, from there, to where we're at today.
So you hit on a couple of marks there that I've seen some of the best of their time get stuck in, and you blew through two of them straight away. So I just want to dive into that piece a bit. You went out and you spoke to other people who have, had been successful and had more success. You're a newbie at that point. You want to talk to people in the industry that are crushing, and you want to see how they're doing it. And you went out and you took the leap and got your first assistant. I've seen so many people get hung up on those two steps. Why did you make, was there a mentor? Was there a book? Was it just coming up in the sales industry on the health club side? Did you just know that these are things you had to do, or was there other influences that gave you that kind of push?
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination of both, right? At that time, dude, I know I'm dating and aging myself here, but there was no YouTube, there was no podcast, and at that time too, teams weren't really a thing,
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty much just people had a job in real estate, right? However, I had developed a lot of teams in the health and fitness space. So after my father sold his gyms, I started working for, another operation that was growing pretty rapidly. And I was in charge of doing pre-sales for them. So as the TIs were going on, I was in the trailer out there, pre-selling memberships. And it was like, okay, hey, sell X amount of memberships. Then when you have this recurring revenue coming in, okay, then I could hire an assistant. Then we got to the next level, and then I could bring on my first sales guy, then my second guy. So, the goal there for me was to, get the membership base to a certain, standpoint before we open the doors, and then develop the sales team, get out of sales myself, but then oversee the sales team and sales department, and then boom, repeat next location. Right. So, I had a lot of experience with that. And I was like, dude, business is business, sales is sales. Instead of articulating that we're the best facility to help people hit their health and fitness goals, I was just having to articulate that, hey, I'm the best guy to help guide you from your current living situation to the next living situation. Everything else was essentially the exact same shit, So, and then from there, though, one thing that I did do is when I first got my real estate license, I didn't care about splits. I wasn't concerned about any of that. I'm like, let me go find the biggest badass that I possibly can find that I want to aspire to go out there and create their level of success in this industry. And I found it, I found a dude that was one of the top, not just locally, but one of the top in the country. He was the brokerage owner, plus had his own team. So it worked out great because I was able to learn from him, not have to join his own team. Because I knew, look, I couldn't go out there and just doing quick math. I was like, I can't go out there and earn the income I need to get this down payment flying solo. I'm going to need to delegate. But I was able to, position myself in his umbrella, under his umbrellas, with the brokerage, and then get his guidance and mentorship, because there were quite a lot of questions that I had, right? Of, okay, when I hired this first assistant, I knew I was at a capacity and, needed that first assistant, but what are the best strategic, delegation items to delegate off to that assistant, and whatnot. And he was able to help guide me, through a lot of that stuff as well.
But did you literally take pen to paper and write out kind of a business plan? I need to prospect X amount of people based on an anticipated close rate of Y to generate X revenue in order for me to scale? Or was it just you kind of gripped it and ripped it?
Yeah, no, I mean, in the very beginning, it was, okay, I had my lead gen strategy, my lead follow-up strategy, but what I didn't know was what my conversion rates were going to be. Now I knew the importance of, data and tracking and all of that from the gym business. Cause that was, we ran it as a business, it's funny. A lot of people think of when you work at a gym, it's just, working out and having fun. But no, dude, it's there's so many days I didn't even step outside of tours that, you have your KPIs and numbers to hit every single day. And, with that. So, but I didn't know what my numbers were going to be until I had my own sample size of data, so in the beginning, it was just hey, man, I'm going to do as many open houses as humanly possible. So just start off with one a day, but paying attention to that data, okay, hey, is it, 1 out of 20? What are those numbers looking like? So then very quickly it became predictable. But I just my strategy in the beginning was, okay, I'm going to get in the office every day at 5 a.m. Between 5 a.m. and noon, I'm going to get all of my lead follow-up done, all my paperwork done, anything that's kind of busy office work stuff that I need to get done. And then from noon to 7 p.m. every single day was going to be pounding the pavement time. Now, of course, I had what those buckets were going to be for pounding the pavement, but if I couldn't get an open house, it wasn't, oh, let me just go twiddle my fucking thumbs. It was, okay, well, here were the backup activities that I had in place. So like, dude, Home Depot parking lot, man, like I cleaned house, just going out there and hand it, I was like, okay, hey, I don't have an open house here. I'm going to go, like, if what's that backup strategy? Okay, I'm going to go to Home Depot parking lot, hand out at least 100 cards and have 100 conversations. Okay, if that wasn't a place, like, what's that next thing? What's that next thing? So I always had kind of reserves, but then it gets quickly, you start getting really busy. Well, then it takes away from your ability to be able to do those things. So I'm like, okay, like, in order for me to continue to scale, I've got to be able to focus on more money-making activities. So that's at the point where I knew I needed to hire that assistant.
So folks, Joshua and his team have sold over 7,000 homes, over 2 billion in real estate. He was named the top 30 realtors in America by the Journal. You want to know how? Right there. There is no substitute for hard work and being intentional. Man, that, we talk to agents all the time, and especially today, we find that people are kind of looking for that secret sauce or that one ingredient that's going to put them over the edge. And that's the piece that they're missing. And if they go from one brokerage to another, they're going to find that special piece. And certainly the right brokerage will give you better tools and mentorship and support. But you've got to be disciplined, folks. You've got to love the absolute grind. We've had some comments over the years, Josh, where one in particular, attorney at a closing, passed the check across the table and, looked at the number and scoffed and went, oh, really? How many calls did you make to earn that check? And my response, of course, was, well, we're hiring if you want to be an agent, you're an attorney, so you're licensed automatically. If it's that easy, why don't you come on board? But what people don't see is this: up at 5 a.m. from 5 to 12 every day, putting in the work to prospect, then 12 to 7 working on conversion. That's what it's about, folks. You need a system, you need the tools, but you've got to have the passion and the drive. And in this business, the skies really are the limit. You really can get as much out of this business as you want, but you've got to put the friggin' work in. And that's just missing from so many equations. And you see a lot of programs and coaching, and they don't talk about that piece. And I love that you shared that. Like, there's no secret thing here. You've got to go out and grind, and you got to hustle. So you're going from literally no experience at all to taking the steps, finding the mentors, joining the right team, hiring assistants, scaling. $2 billion later in sales. Where did technology and disruption and CRM, where did that start to become either a pinch point for you, or how did that make its way into your world? And now you own essentially a software company. Where did that start to bump up against your progress?
Yeah, I mean, the CRM was very fast for me, man. Now, I couldn't afford one in the beginning. Because when I jumped into this industry, dude, like, I just burned the boats, burned the ships. Like, I was doing credit card cash advances just to make it. Now I was 23 years old, not married, no kids. So, today at 41 with 3 kids, like, I have to, allocate risk differently today. But at that time in my life, it was like a time I could be risky. So I went and talked to one of the local title companies into paying for my CRM. Now, I don't know if they can do that now today with RESPA laws, but RESPA is a lot more relaxed, back then. But it was like, at the time, I don't know, $15 a month. It was Wise Agent, and that's, where I started. Because again, just from my, history of sales and so much prospecting and follow-up, I just knew the importance of it. So fortune is in the follow-up, man. It's just how it goes, dude. And working on those skill sets. So right out of the gate, I started with the CRM. And then, that expanded, because then it was like, and I don't know what the capabilities are today, but at that point it was okay. It was good enough for me to manage my business. But then when I started my team, it created some complexities that, we needed to upgrade that system, then upgrade to the next. But I would say, so CRM's always been an important component. And look, dude, like, I don't care if I have to use spreadsheets for a CRM. It's just you got to have something, where you can keep these. And if you need to use Google Sheets to start there, just start there. But, technology started really becoming huge in about 2012, 2013, and for me, where that really came apart as far as like, really getting into digital marketing, was I was spending an insane amount of money with, when I say insane, I guess it wasn't too much. It was about 15 grand a month between, Zillow and Trulia.
Yeah.
And our ROI was really good at the time. Right. But then all of a sudden, one day I come in the office and they're like, look, man, we decided to change the way that we bill. They used to charge us per click. Now they went into this per impressions and they tried to sell it like it looked pretty. But my cost per lead went from like $14 to $47 per lead overnight. And I realized at that point of like, holy shit, dude, I'm very vulnerable here. So at that point, I committed to never relying on third parties to generate my business for me. So then I was like, okay, let me go out there and master Google pay-per-click. Let me go out there. Now that's been replaced with Facebook and YouTube and other things. Not that Google pay-per-click isn't effective, but I get a much better ROI in other spots, now I still, we still do Zillow today. They only have Zillow Flex in our market today, but I'm not going to allow myself to be reliant on those, so then at that point it was, continuing, dude, we got to be able to go out there and fish, man.
So it wasn't always just butterflies and rainbows, right?
Dude, I've had so many fucking shit storms, dude.
Yeah, you shared some things in the pre-show exchange, folks. Always the teams go back and forth about things that we could talk about, and you always didn't look like this shredded, handsome, full of energy guy ready to go take on the world. Are you comfortable talking a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, 100%, man.
So you lost 100 pounds.
Yeah. What had happened, dude, is, I talked about growing up in the gym business and, in my younger years, so like high school years and junior high, whatever. I mean, I was, very athletic, wrestler. And then in high school, I started competing in bodybuilding, did compete in the Teenage Mr. Michigan, so, I was in pretty damn good shape. And then when I started college, like I only went to college because my girlfriend was going to college. I was like, well, shit, I had some insecurities of, okay, she goes off to college. I don't go, like, this thing's probably not going to work. I want to make this work, but then after about a year of going to college, I realized, at least for me, I was like, dude, this is for the birds, man. Like this is a joke, it's just a internal feeling that I had. Now, again, I know today, a lot of people have a different feeling about college, but back then, it was, perceived that you got done with high school, you went to college, you got a good job, otherwise you weren't going to make it. And I had a lot of people against me when I dropped out. And anyway, though, there's just several things in my life that just kind of started spiraling out of control. And to the core of it, I just allowed myself to adopt a victimhood mindset where I was just blaming all these outside circumstances. And I allowed myself to slip into pretty deep depression where, when I say deep depression, I was contemplating committing suicide, multiple times throughout the day, each and every day, to my lowest moment where I planned it out, was going to get ready to go execute on it. And then that's what scared the living shit out of me. It's just that I allowed myself to get to that deep of a point. It freaked the absolute hell out of me. And at that point, I decided, man, I got to fucking make some changes here. I got to figure this thing out. So then I was like, okay, well, what's the opposite of depression? So then that depression led to the weight gain, because I go from eating, 2 chicken breasts and 6 ounces of broccoli to now eating 2 double Whoppers with cheese. Like, I just didn't give a shit. I was drunk every day by noon. I didn't care. So I lost my health very, very fast. But then I started assessing, okay, if I want to solve this thing, and if I'm serious about this, if I want to, overcome this depression that I'm experiencing, well, what's the opposite of depression? It's fulfillment. Okay, well, what do I need to do to become fulfilled? I didn't know. I was like, fuck, I don't know. I couldn't think of anything, right? I put quite a bit of thought into this, man. I've always been pretty introverted and somebody that spends a lot of time with myself, my own thoughts. But then I was like, okay, let me identify the areas of my life that I'm most unhappy with, that I have a high level of confidence that if I can overcome these things and solve these things, I think it would put me in a better mental state. And those two things were, I was sick and tired of being broke as a joke. And I was sick and tired of being morbidly obese and fat and barely able to get up a flight of stairs without being winded. So I created a plan for those two things. And that's what, led me to jumping back into sales, because I actually took a temporary break from sales, went and worked at a hospital, and so that got me back into sales, which led me into real estate. And then I just started getting extremely intentional with my health and fitness journey again. My heaviest, I was 276 pounds, and I'm 5'10", so I'm not super tall, so, I've lost over 100 pounds now, kept it off, well over, decade and a half now or so. And just turned things around, man, overcame, substance addiction, my battles with alcohol, and all of those things on this journey. So I look at this of like, look, I'm not on a real estate journey. I'm just on a success journey. People ask me all the time, like, why do you keep doing this? You don't need to keep doing this. I'm like, look, to me, it's all about, when I look in the mirror, who's that human being? Like, what's that person looking back at me? When I'm staring at that person, staring that person in the eyes, am I proud of who I see and who I've become? And I still have a long way to go of that. Doesn't mean that I'm not proud of, the things that I've overcome and the accolades and the successes, but I know I have so much further to go, and to me, it's just it's just an internal game, dude, for me.
So you experienced this, just doing some, backward numbers here. You experienced this several years into your career where you had these setbacks, and I appreciate you sharing it, because I'm an introvert also. In fact, the reason I'm doing this show and have been doing it for the last several years is because I absolutely was petrified to speak outside of my comfort zone. And my comfort zone was just this little narrow spot in real estate, and in social situations, something I still struggle with mightily. This was my way of kind of putting it out there and saying, okay, it's time to grow. And people don't see that, right? People see the other side. They see our successes and they see our wins, and they don't understand, like, you're fucking not alone. Like, we've almost all of us that have had success in this business, and I'm sure it's across all businesses, we've had the same struggles. We've all been there. We've all battled demons, and it's never too late. It's never over. You can always make that decision in that moment that, you know what, I'm going to just be a little bit better tomorrow than I was today, and start turning things around. So I really appreciate you sharing that stuff, because
yeah, dude, it's important, man, because I mean that, I realized very, very quickly that the vast majority of our industry is full of shit. And I get it and I understand it. And, it's more sales. We want to go out there and portray this image, perception is more important than reality. And there's an ego element where, there's a sense of shame or embarrassment, talking about your struggle. So I battle with all those things too. But one day I got sick and tired of it, man. I was like, I was getting asked to go out there and, because by the time I was 25, dude, I was doing over 7 figures a year in real estate, and before I was 30, I was voted 30 top realtor in America by the Wall Street Journal. And I was, winning all these awards and accolades. And I was asked to go speak on all these stages, and people would be like, oh, Joshua Smith, did, whatever, 2.5 million last year. And, all of this, and they'd, introduce me, make me sound bigger than life when I come on stage, which was very kind of them. But in my head, I'd be like, yeah, but what all these motherfuckers don't know is I'm $100,000 in credit card debt right now. Yeah, I'm making a lot of top line revenue, but I'm spent, I didn't have my, it took me a long time to learn. Like, I was spending as fast as I was making it, man. And some of those were bad business decisions, but a lot of those were just bad personal decisions, just thinking that faucet wasn't going to stop. And, but I just felt like such a fraud, dude. I just got sick of it, man. So one day I was just like, I'm just going to start being honest about this shit, man, of, all of this stuff. Like, people are like, oh man, you're such a mental champion. You're so disciplined. I'm like, yeah, but what you don't know is, like, I used to be one of the weakest motherfuckers that you've ever met, mentally, physically, whatever. And I had to battle my own demons, and it was hard to come out with this stuff. But then what I realized once I did, I just personally couldn't do it anymore, man. I was just like, cause again, I felt like such a charlatan. But then, dude, what happened is, man, it just, so many people started reaching out to me, just of like, oh my, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I get dozens of messages a day, way more about that than I do people asking me about what to actually do, of, just how that's helped inspire them to whatever it may be, man, whether it's with alcohol or substance addiction or, weight loss or turning their financial situation around. I didn't expect that. when I, started being transparent about this. But a lot of greats come out of that. I think, like you said, man, different magnitudes of the struggles, but we're human beings having this life experience, and we typically experience, the same shit.
Yeah. And mindset, to me, you can have all the systems in the world. They amount to jack diddly squat if you don't have the right mindset. And again, when you're in that state, I was there. You feel really alone. You believe that you're the only person, and you feel like a fraud, and you feel like there's no way out of this. And you get, for me, the analogy I use is it got to a point one day where I couldn't pick the boulder up again. I woke up that day and I just said, I can't fucking do this one more day. I cannot pick this thing up and strap it to my back and just go. And that's where things turn for me. So again, I really appreciate you sharing that side of it. I think it's so important that people hear and understand that, Joshua wasn't hatched as this fucking epic crush monster. He went through his journey also. Let's talk about Get Shit Done Mode. Talk about the brand. What are you offering? What are some of the things you're most excited about?
Yeah, dude. So, the podcast started where, I with the successes that I was having in my real estate business, I very quickly got to the point where people were reaching out to me to allow them to take me out to lunch to pick my brain. Right. And I'm one that, I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have so many amazing people that were willing to share advice and pour into me at a point where there was nothing that I could do to add value to their life. And they chose to add value to mine, so I've always felt a kind of a deep, obligation to go out there and repay that, pay it forward, if you will, or however you want to look at that, with that. So, but then it got to a point where, man, my growth just kept accelerating, but also, more awards, more accolades, more people reaching out, and I just got to the point where I couldn't sustain it. It was like, dude, I had to make a decision of, like it was hard enough just getting all my work done and seeing my family on a daily basis. And I just couldn't respond and go out there and do all these things with all these people. So then I, just started saying, okay, hey man, just send me your question. I can't have you take me out to lunch, but do this. Send me your question. I'll record a video. I'll toss it on YouTube. Now you can have it. You can have it forever. You can keep watching it. And then it might help out other people. So before I actually started GSD Mode Podcast, I released hundreds of videos of doing this. And, that then just led into, other things, man, where I started liking creating the content. And, so I just started to, then, hey, let me turn this podcast into a thing, so about 8 years ago, I launched the GSD Mode Podcast, the Get Shit Done Mode Podcast, where, the focus is, real estate, entrepreneurship, and health and fitness. So kind of, 3 focuses there. And that led into other things too, right? It was okay after about 10 years of building my own real estate business. I got to the point where I built it into a true business, or what I deemed to be a true business, meaning I was able to exit from production operations. I replaced myself with the CEO. So now here I am. I'm used to working 80 hours a week, and now I'm not working on board. Like, what the hell else am I going to do? Well, at that time, I had so many people, reaching out, asking if I'd coach them. And it was just always, nah, dude, I'm busy building my own business. So then I'm like, okay, what's that next move I'm going to make? Well, man, I love work. I love the B2B side of this business. I'm damn good at it. There's demand there. So let me start a coaching business, so then I launched that is my next thing. And then as I start doing the coaching business, I have an abundance of real estate professionals reaching out to me saying, hey, I want to use the systems and the software that you use, but man, I can't afford the $1,500 a month systems. So I went out there and trying to solve their problems. I realized, man, nothing's been created for the individual agent out there that's affordable. That's an all-in-one system. I couldn't find, I didn't want to, I never plan on getting into software. But again, it didn't exist out there. There was demand. And it's something that I was, good at. So went out there and created my own software company. In the beginning, it was, just an individual agent product. Now it's morphed. We have, brokerages with hundreds of agents that are using our platform. So it's, individual agent, team leader, and broker owner, but that came out of demand too. It wasn't necessarily intentional. Right. And then that's led into other things, franchising, other things that we're now doing today. I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of forgot what your original question is, but that's what we're up to now today.
Yeah, the original question was about the brand and what are we doing in the brand? So that directly answers it. The CRM piece, really jumped out at me, because this is something that we have struggled with since Jump Street. I started in the business in the 90s, the late 90s, and the difference between a workflow today and a workflow back then, it could not be more opposite. I didn't grow up with an iPhone in my hand, but I had the benefit of learning the old school tactics and coming up through the tech piece where I was still young enough to kind of adapt and listen and learn. And I love that you're solving for what to me has been the biggest challenge, is the CRMs. There are so many programs, and it's painfully obvious that they're built by programmers that don't have practical experience in the day of an agent. Yeah. Right? There's so many things you got to click and add and subtract and file and note and reminders, that all of those things are essential, by the way, but a real estate mind thinks differently than a programmer's mind. And it felt like all of the platforms, even the best platforms, were built by a programmer without the influence of a master deal maker like yourself.
Yeah. And the great part about it is, like I'm, not just the owner of the company, I'm also our biggest client, Yeah. So it's like, like we're using it every single day to build our businesses. So, we're seeing, okay, where the improvement pieces need to be. And, and to your point, man, it's like, other CRMs I've used in the past, it's like, man, it would take me 3 or 4 times longer to clear up my daily task queue, just because of a simple, setup of, hey, like, let me have this contact record. I can do everything in that contact record. I can see the task. I can update the task, do what I need to do, and then just click a button to go to the next. It's like every other state, like I had to back out, go into here, go into here. And just those little tiny things that people don't understand unless you're in it, day in and day out. And, and our focus has been, because one of my issues with systems is next thing you got 10 different systems. And there's really no truly all-in-one system, so I'm like, man, let's build a system where we can do everything inside that system, where we can, manage and work all of our transactions. We can, have our CRM work all of our leads, all of our clients, all of our past clients, all of our sphere of influence, plus manage our websites and all our digital marketing, so front end, back end, all of that. And with today's era that we're in this digital landscape, dude, it's so important to, know that tracking component. So it's like not only do I know that this came in from a Facebook ad or a YouTube, ad or whatever, I can know exactly which specific ad, which specific video, all of that becomes so important in this digital marketing landscape to maximize cost per acquisition.
It's everything, man. You're hitting on, again, as someone who came up as a deal maker, the frustration points. And if you're not incredibly intentional and incredibly disciplined, it becomes very easy to use that as an excuse to not prospect the right way, to not follow up with the leads the right way, to not track the ads and A/B test and do all of those things. And as agents, we're not necessarily great at that, but providing a system that solves for all of those things allows you to be what you do best, right? We want to keep deal makers making deals. Marketers market, and programmers program, deal makers make deals. And it sounds like that's precisely what the software does. Where can people learn the most? Do you have like all of the coaching and the CRM? Is that all available for people in one spot?
Yeah. They can go to gsdmode.com, which is the hub, right, where access where the podcast is at, which we have about 3,000 or so, podcast releases over the years. A lot of free resources on there too. But then if they want to check out Perfect Storm, they can, do that right there on the site, or go to perfectstormdemo.com and learn more about the coaching on there. Yeah. And one thing to your point of the CRM is I look at it a lot, like my experience in the gym business has helped a lot with a lot of this business, man. It's like, look, you go into this gym, you want to get in shape, you go into this gym, it's an amazing facility. It's got all the things that you need inside there, but you don't know how to use the equipment. You don't know the right strategy to deploy, so, one thing that we found, cause I'm going to say, like, dude, like we sometimes it takes, a few runs at it to get it right. In the very beginning, man, we had very high churn. And I was like, well, why are we having this high churn? Well, I realized, dude, it's like, it doesn't matter how good the system is if your people don't know exactly how to use the system, so then from there, I got really intentional of, okay, I'm already doing all this stuff in my business, like all, having all the campaigns, pre-built out. I mean, all my 1,000-day email text strips and for all these different detours, I'm like, I've already spent, years and years and years split testing these in the best messaging campaigns. Let me figure out a way to get these all built in the system where any of our clients can just adopt them if they choose to, but then from there, realize that, again, it's not just about providing the tech. It's like, dude, if you don't have the training and coaching component along with that, so like each one of our clients, it's like, okay, like making sure everything's set up the way they need it for their business. So, very hands-on and making sure they have all the right campaigns in place. They have all the right, everything's set up. So now they can just get in there and start using it and know how to utilize it, but then, ongoing, we do, like I personally do, 2 hours of weekly live training, where everybody has access to me. Like all of our customers have direct access to me, so I found that if you don't have that kind of coaching and training component, along with the software, it's like, why was churn high? Right. Because people weren't having success with it, right. So if we, missing, now our churn's very low, because of those factors.
So the attrition rates on even the quote unquote best platforms out there are astronomical because people don't have that support. It's very frustrating when you don't have that other side of it to teach you how to use the platform. So are you guys coaching, and is your platform built for a newbie or someone that's kind of hit capacity and looking for scale, brokers, everyone in between?
All of the above, man. We have, so if you look at like, okay, my whole entire business, my real estate business operates on that system. There's 114 of us, and that's a combination of agents and recruiters and admin and managers, so whether you're an individual agent, we've structured our pricing for that too. We're about 1/5 of the cost of our competitors out there, when it comes to that, but it's a charge per seat, and there's a cap with that, I can't tell you how many clients that we have come on that were paying $2,500 a month for this system. Our system's only $199 a month, but then it's, $25 for each agent user that they add. Admin are all free, for that. So yeah, I mean, it can be whatever level that you're at, man. It's cause that's important, man. You got to be able to, cause that was one of the frustrations I had was, okay, this system would work good, but then I got to the next level. Well, then I'd have to keep upgrading my systems because it no longer worked. It's like, okay, you need systems that you can grow with, inside your business, and then the cool part too is with our clients, I'm able to give them guidance on, how to go out there and grow their brokerage, how to go out there and grow their teams. And, they have daily access to me. So
that's probably the biggest challenge is scaling the right way. And I love the idea that the system is built to allow you to go through those processes from literally a newbie all the way up through, if anyone's hitting your levels, I think that, let that be their biggest complaint, right? So, look, man, this has been a great conversation. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on. You're an inspiration. The podcast rocks. It's absolutely outstanding. Packed, folks, with great info. Best place for people to find everything, we're going to point them to gsdmode.com.
Yep. gsdmode.com. That's kind of the hub, or you can find me, whether it's YouTube, any social media platform, just Joshua Smith GSD. So, or you can just Google links. Joshua Smith GSD, you'll find me everywhere. So
yeah, all the links always, folks, will be down below in the show notes. Man, I really appreciate the time. This was great.
Yeah, it's been an honor, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Be well.
All right.
As always, folks, please stay safe.